I told you what it was going to be. Glory, glory to old Georgia. And to hell with Georgia Tech. The Dogs in 8 overtimes take home the victory 44-42 over Georgia Tech in this year's edition of Clean Old-Fashioned Hate.
Told them, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.
I told you guys exactly what it was going to be. I told you it was going to be a knife fight. And to be completely honest, Georgia Tech was the more physical team for 3 quarters of that game. They whipped Georgia in the first half and most of the third quarter. But as the game rolled along, there are certain things that became very, very evident. Things that, again, I told you would show up in this game. But the bottom line is, the reason Georgia won this football game is because they kept the main thing. And that is to just keep playing. The last play doesn't matter. The next play hasn't happened. Just keep playing. Play the play that's in front of you. And that's what Georgia did all night long. I mean, why should this game have been easy? I told you it was going to be a knife fight, a bare-knuckle brawl right there between the hedges on Saturday night. I told you that Brent Key had rebuilt Georgia Tech in his own image, in his own outlook. They have taken on his personality. They're a good football team. And when you put all that other stuff on top of it, rivalry week, the chance to spoil Georgia's season, the fact that they're riding a 7-game losing streak or a 6-game losing streak coming into the game, Tech wanted nothing more than to come out of there with a victory. And for the first half, they handed it to Georgia. Now, Georgia didn't do anything to help themselves. There were a lot of issues there. There were a lot of issues. Drop passes, fumbles, failures to convert, things like that. And they let Georgia Tech hang around. But let's not take anything away from Haynes King and that Georgia Tech team. They played their asses off, and they whipped Georgia in the first half. And then they were having their way pretty much in the third quarter. Even in the fourth quarter, when you thought Georgia was fighting back, Georgia Tech kept fighting. They had answers. But Georgia just kept playing. Because when you get behind, that's all you can do. I mean, this thing was going to be a knife fight the whole time. But why would we have ever expected that it was going to be easy for Georgia? Nothing this year has been easy. Everything that you thought was going to be easy turned out to be way more difficult than outsiders said it should have been. But when you are a champion, when you are a team with the recent history that Georgia has had, you are in a different position than most teams when it comes down to playmaking time in a game like this. Enter Dan Jackson. Now, football is a game of inches, and there are a lot of moments throughout that game that changed the ultimate outcome of it. C.J. Allen had a couple. Carson Beck had a few. Nate Frazier clearly had a major impact on this game. But none shine brighter than the moment Dan Jackson unloaded on Haynes King at the line of scrimmage to stop them in a short yardage situation and separate him physically and manually from the football. You know, I'm country enough and just rough enough around the edges to have grown up embracing a saying that goes a little something like this. When you've done everything you know how to do to try to fix a problem, if nothing else works, hit it with a hammer. That's what Dan Jackson did. Dogs needed a stop. Dan Jackson was the hammer that provided it. He separated Haynes King from the football, gives the ball back to Georgia. Carson Beck has one of his moments. Dominic Lovett makes up for some of his earlier mistakes. Dogs score a touchdown. Here we go. The game changed right there. That is where you know that this Georgia Bulldogs football team reminded us of what we never should have doubted, which is that they have the heart of a champion. And champions don't quit. They don't die. Right now, Georgia Bulldogs, they are the Jason Voorhees of college football. You think you got them beat, and they just keep coming back. The serial killer of your favorite slasher flick That's what the Bulldogs are. You have to take it away from Georgia, and they are not going to give it willingly. As a Georgia fan, that makes me really happy, and I could not be more proud of this team, their performance, than I am right now. Keep in mind, this is a senior class that was undefeated at home. And when it came down to it, it took a guy that was a former walk-on who's only at Georgia because he loved Georgia so much to step up and make a play that ultimately was the trigger that led to the senior class saving this victory and remaining undefeated between the hedges. This class will graduate having never lost to Georgia Tech, Auburn, Florida. That's incredible. And it all comes back to choosing to make a play when a play had to be made. Dan Jackson, everybody. Blown away by that. And the heart and the resilience that this Georgia Bulldogs football team showed against Georgia Tech on Saturday night. So now we are done with the regular season. We're moving on to the postseason. The Dogs wrap up their 12-game regular season at 10-2. As I record this, I still don't know who they're going to be playing in the SEC championship game, but I know they're going to be there. And they have a chance to claim another title. A class that has done more at the University of Georgia than any prior has a chance to keep adding to the trophy case next Saturday. This team is still writing their story. They are frustrating, infuriating, maddening, and thrilling to watch. That's what football is. And the more I sit back and think about it, how many times I've sat here and said, football is not Xbox. Real life college football is not Xbox. Teams don't just show up and win because they're better. That's not how it goes. You will be challenged. You have to rise to that challenge. And this team has shown time and time again that they can do that. It's really impressive. This team has driven me crazy this year. But they're still writing their story. And as of right now, I'm looking ahead and thinking this might be, it could turn out to be, my favorite Georgia Bulldogs team of all time. We'll see. It's all out there in front of them. So I'll just leave you with this. SEC championship game's on the way. A glorious win over the in-state rival Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in this year's edition of Clean, Old-Fashioned Hate. I really just got one more thing to say, and that is, how about those dogs? Y'all take care of yourselves. I'll see you next time. Go Dogs!
Told them, how about them dogs? That's what I told them.